Something's happening right now that the mainstream isn't ready for, folks, and it's not a rumor. It's not hopium. It's confirmation. The world's biggest financial players, the Fed, BlackRock, JP Morgan, are all moving in sync. And somehow, every single move, it funnels back to Ripple. You can almost feel it. The gears shifting under the surface. Liquidity, it's loosening. Narratives, they're changing. And XRP, it's sitting at the center of it all. We're about to connect the dots. The media refuses to show you, because when you see the pattern, you'll understand why this isn't bullish. It is invertible. And let's start with the spark that's about to light the fuse. And you know what that is? That's going to be the Fed rate cut. That's right, folks. We got a 96% chance the Fed rate cut is coming this month. Could be multiple cuts. It's not a random number. It's the market screaming liquidity incoming. Rate cuts are basically rocket fuel for risk assets. It's like the Fed saying, all right, it's time to refill the punch bowl. And every time they do, Bitcoin runs, Ethereum files, and XRP to bridge. Well, it goes parabolic. And here's what this is what they miss, right? The moment the Fed pivots, money floods back into innovation. And this time, Ripple's already licensed, regulated, and sitting across the table from governments. You're not early to a coin. You are early to a monetary system, everyone. And look, I know I mentioned the calls a lot, but some people think it's a promo, but it's not. I'm doing it because I keep meeting people who missed the last run. Not because they didn't believe, but because they didn't have a plan. That is why these are set up. Not to sell hype, but to help people structure their assets, manage FOMO, and actually win when this thing explodes. Have you been watching from the sidelines? This is your wake-up call. Go book a session. We'll map out your strategy before the next candle rips to the upside and it leaves you shaking in your little seat. And then just in, JP Morgan, they said Solana ETFs might pull in 1.5 billion in inflows their first year. 1/7 of Ethereum. That's headlines bait, everyone. They're trying to keep your eyes glued to shiny altcoins while the real infrastructure shift happens behind the curtains. Because JP Morgan, come on, let's be honest here. They know where the game ends, right? They know. They've been testing private ledgers for years. But when it comes to cross-border settlement, Ripple's already won. And Brad Garlinghouse has made that crystal clear. They push Solana headlines so retail fights over crumbs while banks quietly build around the bridge asset XRP. And the irony of all this, JP Morgan owns Onyx Network, which mirrors Ripple's model almost 1-for-1. Look, follow the breadcrumbs. This isn't about hype coins. It's about who moves the world's money fastest, and that race is already won. BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, you know, the guy who once trashed Bitcoin, he now calls it a legitimate asset. You think that's a coincidence? Nope. That is what we call a green light. BlackRock doesn't pivot without insider clarity from central banks. They're normalizing Bitcoin publicly so they can deploy Ripple's rails privately. Bitcoin is the store of value narrative, the shiny gold, but the movement of value, well, that's XRP. Think of it like this. Bitcoin is the vault. XRP, that is your plumbing. Fink endorses, softens the crowd. Ripple's integration completes the circuit. That is how you rebuild the global monetary system without a single protest. You make it look organic. Listen.
I believe Bitcoin is legitimate. I'm not trying to say there's not misuses like everything else, but it is a legitimate financial instrument that allows you to have maybe uncorrelated, non-correlated type of returns. I believe it is an instrument that you invest in when you're more frightened, though. It is an instrument when you believe that countries are debasing their currency, by excess deficits, and some countries are. I believe we have countries where you're frightened of your everyday existence, and if you have an opportunity to invest in something that is outside your country's control, then you can have more financial control. And so I'm a major believer that there is a role for Bitcoin in portfolios. I believe you're going to see that as one of the asset classes that we all look at. I look at it as digital gold, as I said before, and I do believe there's a real need for everyone to look at it as one alternative to, I would say, the optimism that I have in the world. If you want to hedge hope, Bitcoin is not an instrument for hope unless you're hopeful you're going to make a lot of money on it. But I look at it as a vehicle in which you're expressing your financial acumen in something that you're more frightened of the world, you're more frightened of your existence. And I believe there's a great industrial use for it. And I think a lot of people are missing that.
It's all about making it look organic, everyone. And then Bill Miller IV, he just said in 20 to 30 years, every company might be a Bitcoin treasury company. Sound wild? But you know what? He's right. Because once these companies start holding digital assets, they're going to need on-ramps, they're going to need off-ramps, they're going to need to move instantly between fiat stablecoins and crypto. Well, that's where Ripple enters the room, right? If Bitcoin becomes corporate savings, XRP becomes corporate liquidity. It's like the internet's backbone. Invisible, it's everywhere, and it's essential. So yeah, every company might hold Bitcoin. That's bullish. But every transaction is going to rely on Ripple's network to settle it. The bridge wins again. Listen up.
It's my take that in 20 to 30 years, every company might be a Bitcoin treasury company. And the reason for that is what I just mentioned. The underlying protocol for what we're representing as value is much more stable in Bitcoin than it is with fiat technologies. So, we own Strategy. You look at the deal that Michael just did with STRC, many times oversubscribed. And what I think is likely to happen moving forward is people are going to look around, and the bond managers that are buying the Bitcoin-related bonds are going to outperform the ones that don't. And the equity fund managers that buy Bitcoin-related stuff are going to outperform the ones that don't. And people are going to keep looking around and going, how do I do that? Oh, I buy stuff that's tied to Bitcoin. And so, and then they're going to actually do work on it, which most people still haven't actually done. And it's just going to snowball downhill, which is what we've seen for the past.
Bullish, but that brings us to this, because State Street's out there, $4 trillion under management. They just dropped the truth bomb. They said 60% of institutions will increase digital asset exposure within the next 12 months. That's not speculation. That's deployment orders. These aren't TikTok traders, everyone. These are sovereign funds, pensions, endowments. The slow money that never sells. They don't move until regulation's locked. And who just got regulatory clarity across Europe? That's the first video of the day. You'll understand that Ripple just did. This is the domino effect, right? Liquidity is leaving the old world and it's flowing into tokenized rails. By the time this headline catches up, those allocations, they're going to already be done. If you're still here early, congrats. You're front row for the liquidity shift of the decade. And then here it is, the confirmation moment. We just got the announcement here from Ripple. It states, and I quote, "We look forward to continuing our collaboration with the European policymakers and industry leaders to make a multi-asset settlement future a reality." Well, let me translate this for you. They're merging XRP with RLUSD, their own dollar-backed stablecoin, both running on the same exact pipes. One provides speed, the other provides stability. Together, you get programmable global liquidity. This is the digital reserve network forming in real time, but it's on Ripple's architecture. You can't fake that. You definitely can't stop it. They tried, but you can only decide if you want in before it actually finishes, everyone. Let's zoom out a second here. The Fed's ready to flood liquidity. Institutions, they're loading up. They're not even being quiet about it anymore. Banks are following Ripple's blueprint, and now governments are literally confirming collaboration. This isn't hype. This is all alignment. You can either wait for CNBC to tell you that this is real, or you can recognize you're early to the biggest monetary shift in 50 plus years. If this clicked for you, drop a I see it down in the comments below. Hit like, subscribe. And if you want to actually plan your next move, book a call with me right now. Yeah, I bring it up a lot, but guess what? I watch too many people get the research right and the timing wrong. I'm not selling hype. I'm trying to help you win this next cycle, because when this next leg hits, you know what? There's not going to be any time to react. Enjoy your Friday. Have an amazing night. Let's get ready for the weekend. Hope you enjoyed. Hit that thumbs up on your way out. I'll catch all y'all on the next one.